What would you do if a single moment of recklessness cost you everything? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where neatly trimmed lawns and picket fences painted a picture of harmony, a storm was brewing, one that would unravel lives in ways no one saw coming. It all began with a motorcycle, a symbol of freedom for my brother, Lucas, and a woman named Karen, whose arrogance set off a chain of events that would leave us all questioning justice, forgiveness, and the price of pride. Lucas was the kind of guy who lived for the open road. His vintage Harley-Davidson, a 1983 Shovelhead, wasn't just a bike. It was his heart, his escape from a world that often felt too heavy. He'd spent years restoring it, polishing every chrome curve, tuning the engine until it roared like a lion. That bike was his pride, parked in our driveway under a custom cover, a testament to his grit and love. Our family, Lucas, and our younger sister, Mia, had grown up in that house, a modest two-story where memories clung to the walls like ivy. Ethan, was the practical one, a paralegal who preferred books to engines, but I admired Lucas's passion. Mia, barely 20, was the dreamer, always sketching or writing poetry, her head in the clouds. We were close, bound by loss after our parents passed in a car accident 5 years earlier. The bike, in a way, was Lucas's way of keeping their memory alive. Our dad had been a writer too. Enter Karen Whitmore, our neighbor of 3 years, a woman whose name became synonymous with chaos. Karen was in her late 40s, with a sharp tongue and a knack for making everyone's business her own. She'd complain about Mia's music, the height of our hedges, even the way Lucas parked his motorcycle. "It's an eyesore," she'd snap, her voice carrying across the street. Lucas, ever the peacemaker, would nod and adjust the bike's position, though it was always legally parked. Karen's husband, Greg, was quieter, a tired-looking man who seemed to shrink in her presence. They had no kids, just a yappy terrier named Brutus that barked at anything that moved. The trouble started on a humid July evening in 2024. Lucas had just returned from a ride, his face glowing with that post-ride high. He parked the Harley in the driveway as usual and headed inside to shower. Mia was in the living room sketching while I cooked dinner. The air was thick with the scent of garlic and anticipation for Lucas's birthday the next day. Then, a crash shattered the calm metallic, gut-wrenching thud that sent us running outside. There it was. Lucas's motorcycle, toppled over, its chrome twisted, the gas tank dented, and the handlebars bent at an unnatural angle. Karen stood beside it, her face flushed, hands on her hips. Brutus yipped at her feet. "It was in my way," she shouted, as if the bike had personally offended her. Lucas, still in his socks, stared in disbelief. "Karen, what the hell did you do?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I was backing out, and your stupid bike was too close to the street. It's your fault for parking it there," she retorted, her voice dripping with defiance. But the scene told a different story. Her SUV, parked haphazardly, had a fresh dent on its bumper, and tire marks traced a reckless path from her driveway to ours. She'd hit the bike hard, and didn't even have the decency to admit it. Mia, usually shy, exploded. "You destroyed it. That's his life, Karen." Lucas put a hand on her shoulder, but his eyes were dark with fury. I stepped forward, trying to stay calm. "Karen, you need to take responsibility. This is serious." She scoffed, muttering about entitled kids, and stormed back to her house, Brutus trailing behind. That night, Lucas barely spoke. He sat in the garage, staring at the wreckage of his bike. "It's not just the bike, Ethan," he said, his voice low. "It's Dad. It's everything." I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. Mia, meanwhile, was already researching repair costs, her fingers flying across her laptop. The estimate was grim: $15,000 to restore the Harley, if it was even possible. Lucas didn't have that kind of money, not after pouring his savings into the bike over the years. I knew what we had to do. As a paralegal, I'd seen enough civil cases to know Karen's negligence was actionable. "We're suing," I told Lucas. He hesitated, hating conflict, but Mia was all in. "She can't just walk away from this," she said. So we hired a lawyer, Sarah Delgado, a no-nonsense attorney with a reputation for winning. Sarah gathered evidence. Photos of the bike, the tire marks, the dent on Karen's SUV. Neighbors confirmed Karen's reckless driving habit nearly hit mailboxes before. Greg, her husband, stayed silent, avoiding our eyes when we passed. The twist came a month later, just before the court date. Mia, ever curious, had been digging into Karen's past, something she did when she was angry. She found an old newspaper article online. Karen had been involved in a hit-and-run 15 years ago in another state. No one was hurt, but she'd fled the scene, leaving a totaled car behind. The case was dropped due to lack of evidence, but it painted a picture of a woman who never owned her mistakes. Mia showed us the article, her eyes blazing. She's done this before, Ethan. She thinks she's untouchable. That revelation shifted something in Lucas. He'd been wavering, guilt-tripping himself about the lawsuit, but now he was resolute. "Let's do this," he said. The court date was electric with tension. Karen, dressed in a pristine blazer, played the victim, claiming Lucas's bike was illegally parked and that she'd been traumatized by the incident. Sarah dismantled her story with precision, presenting photos, witness statements, and even traffic camera footage showing Karen's SUV swerving erratically that evening. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Harlan, wasn't impressed by Karen's theatrics. "Ms. Whitmore," she said, "your actions caused significant damage, and your refusal to acknowledge responsibility is troubling." Then came the unexpected. Greg, Karen's husband, took the stand as a witness for us. In a quiet, shaky voice, he admitted Karen had bragged about teaching Lucas a lesson that night, thinking the bike's destruction would force him to move it. The courtroom gasped. Karen's face went white, her confidence crumbling. Greg's testimony was the nail in her coffin. Had enough of her bullying, not just of us, but of him too. It was a moment of raw humanity, a man stepping out from his wife's shadow, and it changed everything. The judge ruled in our favor. Karen was ordered to pay $90,000, $15,000 for the bike, $25,000 for emotional distress. Lucas's therapy sessions were documented, and $50,000 in punitive damages for her willful negligence. Karen's lawyer argued, but the decision stood. As we left the courthouse, Lucas exhaled, a mix of relief and exhaustion. Mia hugged Greg, whispering, "Thank you." He nodded, looking like a man who'd just reclaimed a piece of himself. But the victory was hollow. Karen didn't have $90,000. She and Greg sold their house to cover the judgment, moving to a small apartment across town. Greg filed for divorce soon after, unable to live with the woman Karen had become. Lucas got the money, but the bike was beyond repair. He used the funds to buy a new one, but it wasn't the same. The Harley had been a link to our dad, a piece of our past that no court could restore. Mia stopped sketching for months, her spark dimmed by the ordeal. I buried myself in work, haunted by the bitterness of it all. One evening, as the sun set over Willow Creek, Lucas rode his new bike to our parents' old cabin by the lake. I found him there, staring at the water, the engine still warm. "I thought winning would feel good," he said, his voice breaking. "But it just feels empty." I sat beside him, the silence heavy. Karen's life was in ruins, Greg was starting over, and we were left with a win that didn't heal the loss. Justice had been served, but at what cost? The bike was gone, and so was the fragile piece of our little street. Sometimes, I wonder if Karen ever regretted that night. I wonder if she saw the ripple effects, her marriage, her home, her pride, all shattered by a moment of spite. I wonder if we could have found another way, if forgiveness might have spared us all this pain. But life doesn't offer do-overs. It just leaves you with the wreckage and the choice to keep going. ND.